I want to tell you a story about a grandfather and his grandson. And he tells his grandson a story about two wolves. And there are these two wolves that battle inside of his heart. One is wise and kind, and the other is vicious and cruel. So the grandson asked his grandfather, well, Grandpa, which one will win? Which one will win the fight? Which one will win the battle? Which is a reasonable question for the young boy to ask his grandfather. And the grandfather replies, it's the wolf that we feed. It's the wolf that we feed. And we're on our book study, and the subtitle of chapter 6, which we're up to today, is called Starving Negative Emotions. Now, if we could have Jonah follow us around, and anytime we had a negative emotion, he could bust out, in a song, then we wouldn't have to listen to anything I'm about to say. If we could each have our own personal Jonah, there's no way you could hear or watch him sing and perform and think about a negative, sad, or unhappy thought. But for most of us, it's the battle in our head. Most of us, we have to sing ourselves to a place of joy when that wolf is taking over. And so in the previous weeks, we've discussed taking responsibility for our emotional life. And to take a responsibility for our emotional life is an avenue to increase joy. And those two talks, they're on YouTube if you weren't here for the past few Sundays. And so it should be obvious just from the shift of energy when Cynthia and Sandra or Tim or Jonah or Christina sing for us, that when our thinking is positive emotions follow and flow into our world. Because let me break it down to you. Oftentimes, here's what happens. We react to an experience that happens. We have an experience, someone says something, someone doesn't say something. Someone does something, someone doesn't do something. And the first thing is that we get this thought about what they do, don't do, say, don't say. It's whatever it is, it's an outer experience. Someone stops at the light, they don't stop at a light. The light turns red. I mean, we even have these experiences to inanimate objects. The computer doesn't boot up fast enough, or it does, and it crashes. And we get a thought. Okay, we get a thought, and then we allow this particular thought to persist. And this thought then generates a feeling, an emotion. It generates something inside of us that causes us to feel and believe a certain way about this experience. And so now we have this thought, we add to it a feeling, thought plus feeling equals an action. Now, if our mind consciously was aware while this was going on, then we call it a choice or a decision. But if our mind was unconscious to the feeling because it reminded us of something from years ago, then we call it a reaction. And so at times we respond to life and times we react to life. And we move from thought to emotion to action, or from thought to emotion to relapse, if you want to call it, all the time. And if that thought is negative, the likely end will be a self-defeating decision, a self-defeating action. We'll bust out, we won't pay attention to what we're doing. We'll wind up defeating ourselves. And even if the feeling may be justifiable, even if we're feeling angry with someone, and it's justifiable anger, even if they said they were going to do something and they didn't, and it caused us additional stress or anxiety, even if they said something that was insulting and it really did hurt our feeling, our reaction determines if we move away from joy or if we turn in the direction of joy. You see, the first thought we get is never intentional. But I tell you, because we are humans or because we have minds, it is that second thought that we have the power to choose or not. We can follow Philippians 4:8, and I gave it to all of you again if you're just here for the first time. We've been studying one verse, one sentence in a Bible that has the Hebrew Bible. It has the New Testament in 66 books in total. We've been studying one sentence now for going on to over 2 months. And this one sentence says, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think on these things. Another translation says, meditate on these things. In other words, think over and over and over about what is good in me, what is good in me, what is good in me, and not the negative. We can decide that lovely, noble, excellent thoughts are the kind that we want to have and express on a regular basis. Maybe not the first thought, but we can always choose to turn off a negative thought and let the second thought be one that will lift us closer to the joy we are seeking. Unity was founded by Myrtle and Charles Fillmore, and he wrote a book, Prosperity, during the Depression. And on page 60, he says, if you will start right now with the idea of universal and eternal goodness uppermost in your mind, talk only about the good, and see with the mind's eye everything and everybody as good, then you will soon be demonstrating all kinds of good. And why does this happen? Because good thoughts become a habit, just like negative thoughts become a habit. Good will manifest itself to us. Good will express itself through us. But if we allow the negativity to take over, then that is what we will experience. And you know, let's be honest, negative emotions do flare up. You know, I don't think because, I'm a minister, I don't get them. Boy, I think ministers get extra helpings, you know what I mean? Ooh, just ask like Elisha, who was in a cave all depressed, the Jewish prophet. Just ask Jeremiah, just read the book of Jeremiah. The nickname is he's the sorrowful prophet. Just look at some people, look, they do flare up. But the key to remember is we don't have to feed the fire. Okay? They can flare up, like if you remember our burning bowl service, they flare up and they disappear into nothingness. Or we can add the kindle and the wood and stoke the fire and turn it into a bonfire. And so the question I have is, how do we put them out when they do flare up? How? A negative emotion flares up, a judgment, a resent, an anger. And you can always tell when you're going down the negative road when you hear yourself say, how dare she? Or these are the famous words that I could tell you are just like, if I were him. All right, we're about to just go down the road. How do we put that out? Well, we extinguish them with positive creative thinking. Positive constructive thinking, positive godlike thinking. We refuse to feed them. We refuse to feed the negative emotion because when we feed them, like anything else, when you feed it, you nourish it, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm going to give 3 things that we can do when we find ourselves with this negativity flaring up inside of ourselves. 1, we can actually recognize the negative emotion. 2, we can challenge its truth. And 3, we can declare at that very moment 3 words. And those 3 words are, I am responsible. First, we recognize the negative emotions. You may say, well, of course I recognize them. Pay attention. A lot of times we deny them, we justify them, we rationalize them, we explain them away. We try and convince the whole world why we're right and feeling so miserable at this moment. You know, we go into this whole litany, you know, of rationalizations, but we don't actually recognize it's an emotion. We pretend it's her, or it's him, or it's them, or it's my boss, or it's the car, or it's traffic. We don't recognize this is my negative emotion in this moment. It's not the traffic. The traffic is what it is. It's not there was a car accident on Biscayne Boulevard or Las Olas. It's not any of that. It is me expressing, holding, thinking, and feeling negativity in this moment. And I can tell you something about God. God does not want us to be in constant emotional pain. Okay, that is not one of the qualities of God. One of the powers of God is not, you know, incessant emotional pain. Okay, our natural state is one of health and harmony and balance and love and light and joy. Just look at children when they are expressing joy, and look at a child when they are upset. When children cry, and I'm talking about toddlers now, you know, so they fall down, something happens, they cry, and in 3 minutes later, they're laughing, they're joking. You can watch two kids in a schoolyard fight over something, and 3 minutes later, they're laughing, they're joking like nothing ever happened. That is our natural state. It is one of peace and harmony and balance. And so it is helpful if we recognize the negative emotion and say, this is a warning. It's a warning for me to pay attention, because once I recognize it, I can deal with it. If I rationalize my resent, I don't deal with it. I actually empower it. If I justify why I'm never going to forgive so-and-so, then the unforgiveness is a poison inside of me that continues to fester and shows up in every area of my life. See, denial just gives the negativity more power. You know the saying, that which we resist persists. Say it with me. That which we resist persists. So don't resist it. Why is dealing with our emotions, facing our feelings so important? Because we know positive emotions add joy to our lives and negative emotions damage our life. My resentment, my unforgiveness is not going to do anything to the other person. You know, I used to use this example in the 4T prosperity classes. Is so-and-so, you know, she and I we were an item, and we were hot, and we were great together. And then one day she just left me with another guy and went to Tahiti. And I'm never going to forgive her. And at that second, I want you to understand, I'm sitting here pouting with resentment, and she's in Tahiti, you know, sipping Mai Tais. And no matter how angry, if I just jump up and down and pout, I hate her, I hate her, I hate her, I hate her, I hate her. There's nothing I can do to make the Mai Tai taste any bad, any worse. You know what I'm saying? And then what winds up actually happening is ironic. Because what winds up happening is then I'm going to go out, maybe I'll go to a church, and maybe I'll meet someone new. And I see all these beautiful, available ladies here today. I see all, these handsome men here today. But my mind is really, I'm never going to let anybody do that to me again. I'm never going to let anybody leave me again. I'm never going to let anybody hurt me again. So out of the 120 healthy people that are here, my mind will attract the one person that has abandonment issues. And I will be singing the same song 2-3 years down the road. Because I'll walk right over all the healthy people, you know what I mean? I won't even see, oh, they're great, 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 great. I'll find the fruitcake out on the street who just dumped their last boyfriend. Because that's where my mind is at. And our mind creates, our mind attracts, our mind vibrates. And so the best thing we can do when we're feeling bad about something is feel bad. Acknowledge I feel bad, because this will diffuse the negative emotion by simply acknowledging just how we feel in the moment. Second thing we do is challenge their truth. See, emotions don't work, the way that our intellect works. When we become aware of a negative emotion, we have to remind ourselves, this is the way I feel, and it's not necessarily the truth. I think in the book he gives an example where somebody cuts him off on the car. Tommy Newberry gives an example. He's driving and somebody cuts him off. And he's furious and he's storming about it and everything. And then later on in the chapter he explains, would you have felt different if you knew that man's child was in 911 and being rushed to a hospital, and he just got a phone call that his child was on their deathbed and he needed to get to the hospital immediately? Well, then cut me off, I don't care about it. But we make up stuff. We make up like that man cut me off. He woke up this morning and said, I'm going to meet Frank Phillip on I-95 and Hollandale Beach Boulevard. I'm going to cut him off and ruin his day. Like he wrote it into his day, as a script. It's not true. And I got to tell you something. Even if it is accurate, negativity does not have to dictate our behavior. Why? Because left unchecked, negative feelings drag us down into the worst aspect of human nature. They do. They never bring out the best in us. Resent will never bring out the best. Anger will never bring out the best in me. It'll never allow me to make my best decision. One of the great things you could do in court, is get the witness angry. Because then anything will come out of their mouth. Anything will come out of their mouth. Washington has this, they're about to sign that gay marriage amendment, and there's this pastor who went on TV, and you could tell he's an anti-gay pastor, and you could tell he's really angry about it. And then he starts saying stuff, well, I play football because I can legally beat up white people. It had nothing to do with the issue. You can look at it. The video's on my Facebook page. But it just shows me sometimes. And I was like, brother, man, I put my foot in my mouth sometime. And I was like, listen, do all of the Christians a favor. You're embarrassing Jesus. You're embarrassing Christianity. If you're against gay marriage, just don't marry someone who's gay and be quiet about it. That's my answer. I don't really care if you're for it or against it. If you're against it, don't walk down the aisles. Be like, make sure they're not gay. And be quiet about it. It's like, let go. Let go of the resent, the anger. And we do this by allowing God to be our compass. I'm talking about the mind of God. God as love. God as power. God as truth. Recognizing that in every situation there is good. Someone this morning walked in and shared with me a God story where they fell and they broke their leg and it was terrible. But in that, they realized there's a serious problem with their spine. And if they didn't diagnose the serious problem, they would have woken up paralyzed one day. And so there's many times where we get sick or something happens to us physically and we find out something and we could take some proactive care. We would have never shown up at the doctor to find that out. And so with God as love and power and knowledge and truth, be intentional when you feel this negativity about mirroring a quality of God into your life. Forget about the other person, place, and thing. Allow you to be the face of Christ in that situation. And the third thing we can declare, is when negativity shows up, we can declare, I am responsible. Period. There's no but there. Once you get the but, you're out of order, let me tell you. And in the 10th chapter of 2 Corinthians, Paul's writing to the Corinthians, and the Corinthians were all over the place, but that's another sermon. So Paul's writing, and he's like, listen, we destroy arguments and every proud obstacle raised up against the knowledge of God. We destroy, notice, whenever you're in your ego, it's a proud argument. Okay, it doesn't matter about happiness anymore. Now it becomes about what's being right. If you're married, I can give you a little hint. It's more important to be happy than right. If you're in relationship at work, it's more important to be in harmony than be right sometimes. But when we get up and we set up, that proud moment where we have to convince another person that we're right, we are out of alignment with God's will for our life. And in the New International Version says, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. Emotions do this to us. So even if the argument is a good one, and even if you're right or I'm right, the good news is we are still responsible for what comes next. We're not responsible for them. We're responsible for our own well-being. And so affirming, I am responsible, even if you have to grit your teeth, it deflates negative emotions. Trust me, I went through a year of this. I am responsible. I am responsible. In my defenselessness, my safety lies was a chapter in the Course in Miracles I probably read some 20, 30 times. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. Notice it has nothing to do with any experience, person, place, or thing. And so what we can do is deflate the negative emotion by, when we are feeling it, say, I am responsible. See, the way to do away with a negative thought is not fight it head on. It's much easier, and the only successful way to deal with a negative feeling, a negative thought, is to replace it with a positive one. We have to focus. We have to change our focus. We have to turn the other cheek. We have to walk the second mile sometime. This is basic New Thought. Basic New Thought says, deny that something negative has power over my life. I'm not denying the situation. I'm not denying she dumped me and went to Tahiti. I'm not denying he cheated on me and hurt me. I'm not denying she said this about me to everybody at work. I'm not denying he mailed letters all over the country about me. I'm denying that their action has power over me, and I'm affirming God. I'm affirming a quality of God. Sometimes it's strength. Sometimes it's understanding, sometimes it's love, sometimes it's peace. But there's always a quality of God that is the reflection of the negativity. And so these three words, I am responsible, reject the illusion to blame someone else. Charles Fillmore says, the I am is the name of our spiritual self. I am is the name that Moses got from God at the burning bush. When Moses said, whom shall I say sent me, God said Jehovah. That's a Hebrew word. It's translated, I am that I am. And so this I am, it's a spiritual quality, and it recognizes that it has its being in heaven. And that I am, we have the power. We have our letters to God here we write every year. There's a few in the lobby if you didn't get one. But it's important to put your dreams, your desires into writing and say, I am that I am. I am healed. I am abundant. I am guided by the love of God, because we identify ourselves by two words, I am. And listen this week, if someone asks how you're doing, I'm sick, I'm lonely, I'm this, I'm that. We identify ourselves with that situation. Charles Fillmore says, listen to this. Hitch your I am to the star of Christ, and joy will follow. And Christ is, we understand, is that perfect idea in the mind of God. We do not worship a man named Jesus. We recognize that Christ that moves through each and every one of us, that was exemplified by him as he was able to recognize his God self. And so in this productive frame of mind, see, we're framing our mind. We're capable of seeing the solution. It's ironic that the anger, the resentment, the feeling of negativity diffuses our ability to see a solution. But I tell you, in every situation, we are responsible for our reactions. We determine whether we improve the situation or worsen our circumstance. The moment we stop blaming other people, we are on the road to greater emotional health. And when we have greater emotional health, we make better decisions. And so whenever we catch ourselves going down that path, say, I am responsible. I'm not proclaiming that the other person did not contribute or cause the situation. What I'm saying is I'm refusing to be brought down to a lower level. I want to express joy. I want to feel happy. I want to be joy in the world. And so the next time you start to feel negative, try this. Say, I am responsible. Because say it over and over and over again, even if you're the only one you're convincing, because very quickly, you will recognize joy inside of you. Very quickly, you will not allow negativity to live in your mental house any longer. And don't worry, those negative thoughts, they will find somebody else to feed them, but it will not be you. God bless you. Amen. Amen. God bless you.